Books 4 through 6 of the series form their own trilogy. They all take place in a new area and a new time, 6 years after Book 3. Evra's now an adult, but since Darren's a half vampire, he's pretty much the same age, so now he and Evra aren't really good friends anymore. Aww.
Argofunk Book Review, Argofunk Book Review.
Every 12 years, hundreds of vampires travel to Vampire Mountain for a large party. I imagine a lot more vampires would attend if it wasn't so dangerous. It takes at least a week to reach the remote mountain. The vampire rules say you have to travel the whole distance on foot. You can't use any tools, you can't wear warm clothes, and you definitely can't use super speed. That would be cheating. The evil Mr. Tiny appears. He insists on having two of his little people accompany Darren and Mr. Crepsley on the journey. Along the way, they meet up with Gavner Pearl and a friendly wolf pack. In this universe, wolves and vampires are directly related. Wolves can share maps with each other using their psychic powers. I don't know why I find that harder to believe than the idea of vampires. The group comes across some ominous signs like vampire blood on a cave wall and Vampaneze blood by some thorns. The presence of Vampaneze is confirmed when a grizzly bear consumes Vampaneze blood. It goes mad and attacks. There's an extremely violent fight to the death between the bear and everyone except the adult vampires. I think the author decided to have the adults be somewhere else, because otherwise the fight would have been too one-sided. One of the little people dies in the fight. The other little person removes his hood and speaks for the first time. He says his name is Harkat Molds. He and the other little people are disfigured ghosts who follow the orders of Mr. Tiny. Harkat has come to deliver a prophecy from Mr. Tiny. He says the night of the Vampaneze Lord is close at hand. This is the sequel to a different prophecy of Mr. Tiny's from 700 years ago. He said a Vampaneze Lord will unite all the Vampaneze and lead them to victory in a war against the vampires. The vampires will rise again, only if they protect an artifact called the Stone of Blood. The group arrives at Vampire Mountain. The hideout is inside the mountain, guarded by a complex tunnel system. Darren meets all the various vampires who will be present for the rest of the trilogy. Seba Nile is one of the rare old vampires. He's friendly and likes to share embarrassing stories from when Mr. Crepsley was a newly made vampire. Curtis Smalt is going to be made a vampire prince soon. He wants to change some of the old-fashioned rules, like no using super speed to reach Vampire Mountain. That way everyone could reach the mountain at the same time, and no one would die making the journey. Kurta has been meeting with the Vampaneze in order to negotiate a peace treaty with limited success. Kurta gives Darren a tour of the Vampire Mountain. They have a Hall of Death for executions, as well as a room for cremation, run by a creepy group of organ harvesters called the Guardians. There's also a Hall of Sport, run by a kind game master named Vampaneze Blaine. I'm not a vampire tour guide, but I'm pretty sure the tour should have started with the Happy Vampire Gym instead of the two death rooms. As one of the book's covers shows... Whoa, did they use a swear word on the cover? I'm sure that was considered an edgy move. As one of the book's covers shows, one of the few female vampires is Ara Sales, who excels at a fighting game. The goal is to knock your opponent off of planks using a staff. Darren and Ara have a fight, and he wins her respect. The top of Vampire Mountain has the Hall of Princes. That's where the mythical Stone of Blood is kept. It taps into the vampiric mental collective, so if an enemy to the vampires ever got a hold of it, that would be very bad. The three vampire princes discuss what to do about Darren, since Darren is the first half-vampire child in almost 100 years. After much debate, it's decided they will subject Darren to the trials of death. The end. Post-book follow-up. A lot of this book is world building and setting things up for the rest of the trilogy. I thought it was well done. It's interesting to learn more about these vampires and see how they interact. There are still some scary moments, but it's definitely more story focused. I saw several complaints that not enough happens in this book. Darren spends half the book traveling to a mountain and spends the second half meeting new people. The only action scenes are the bear attack and the fight on the bars. If you hate exposition and love action, then you might want to skip this book. The next book is where all the action starts. Overall, I'd say you'll probably like this book if you liked book number 3. It does a good job of setting up the characters and storylines for the rest of the trilogy. If you're judging this book as a standalone novel, then it's not as good. It's really connected to the next 2 books in the series. I give Cirque du Freak number 4, Vampire Mountain, a 6 out of 10.